Yeah, you can start, Keto.
Okay. I think we should be live also on YouTube in
It's
just,
saying meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
yes. Okay.
So
Let's
we
share
can
this
start.
thing. Good evening, everyone. We are on talk 34 of the Yoga Sutra series. And today we'll be covering Pad 1, Sutra 39. The sutra goes like Yatha Bhimat Dhyanatva Yatha Bhimat Dhyanadva. It can be translated as or by meditation as desired. Tavaryaji translates this as peace can also be reached through concentration upon that which is dearest to the heart. There are four words yatha, which means as in the manner described, abhimat, which means desired, wished, or favorite, dhyanat, which means meditation, and va, which means or.
Thank you. Now, before we enter into the sutra, I just want to say that you see, most of the commentaries on this sutra are that to meditate upon something which we desire or meditate upon something which we like. And I have not taken it in this way because I have always felt that on our journey, we reach a state where we are beyond likes and dislikes. So I was wondering whether the Rishi was pointing to something else, and I've taken it in a very different way. I hope because it would not fit in with the other commentaries. So now we are in the last sutra, uh, which is in the series from Sutra 32, Tat Pratished Ek Tattva Abhyas. That is, he has given different ways to overcome the antrayas or the intervals which happen in our inner journey, which come in our inner journey. And these intervals, he says, lead to disruption of the chitta, um, what we call as chitta vikshepaha. And he calls these intervals as antrayas. Antrayas. And this is the last sutra where he's certainly opening the house for all. If we take the normal, what do you call, commentaries and the normal translations, he's opening up the house for all. He's saying you can meditate on whatever you like. And that will also, what do you call, bring to a state of where there is no chitta vikshepa, or it is also a part of ek tattva abhyasa. Now, just some background before I enter into how I have taken this sutra. Life is full of what you call ups and downs, and we have challenges, we have misfortunes. Different times we are shocked by different news or different events happening. Many times people say things to us, we feel hurt, we feel depressed, we feel down. Now, there are two parts to all this that is happening in life. So these are the facts of life, and there are two parts to them. That is, every fact which we face in life has two consequences. One is outer and one is inner. Now, let us take an example. That supposing I lose money in my business. Now, this is an outer event, an outer event. It is a challenge or it is a consequence in the drama of life. We all are playing our role in the drama of life. And it is a part of that drama that somebody loses, somebody wins. And in my role in the drama of life, I have lost money in my business. Now, this may lead to many things in my outer life. This is an outer event. It may lead to a change in my lifestyle. I may lose some friends. It could create relationships which were stormy, including those of close family, etc., etc. But the Rishi here, Patanjali, is not concerned with what is happening in our outer life. He is concerned whether that event brings about a disruption in the chitta, right? Whether that event brings about chitta vikshepa. So his field of interest is not what is happening in life. Everything that happens in life happens according to a certain law. But whether that event which comes in our life, whether it disturbs my chitta or throughout the event, I remain in a state of steadiness of the chitta. That is steadiness of the thinking instrument. So if the event in life, say losing in business, or a young guy can say my girlfriend ran away, right? So this is the outer event. If that event disrupts my chitta, causes what do you call a storm in my chitta, increases the vrittis, then I have now formed an antray in my journey. It leads to an interval in my inner journey. It leads to an interval in the inner path. In my, what do you call, progress towards a state of Ishwar Pranidhan, which we went through previously. In that progress, it leads to an antara, it leads to an interval. But if the chitta is steady, there may be an outer event where the chitta, where I've lost money in business or something has happened, somebody close to me has died, etc., an accident has happened, there's an illness, etc. But if it leads, if it does not, if within that event, the chitta remains clear, the chitta remains steady, it is not colored by vrittis, it is free of likes and dislikes, then the perception, the darshan, atha yoga darshanam, that is the basis of what the Yogasutra we are doing. Then the darshan remains steady, the perception remains steady, the perception, the vision remains clean. Now, every impression that enters the chitta from outside, it is immediately colored by our likes and dislikes, right? Then it is what you call conditioned by our attitudes, our memory patterns, that is our sanskars, our associations, our habits, our inner contradictions, all that we have gathered as mind stuff, all that we are holding in our conscious, unconscious, and subconscious minds, that one impression which has come in is colored by all this. It may be just a simple impression of seeing a tree. But when the impression which is colored inside, then our vision is disturbed, our perception is not clear, our vision is not clear, and the fact which we see in life is not the real fact. The tathya or the fact, right? It is colored by all this that we are holding on inside. And we are on a journey from fact to truth, right? But to move on this journey from fact to truth, we must first have a clearer perception of the fact. And as long as we are holding all this inside, right, we cannot have a clear perception of the fact. So what we see is not the fact, but what we see is what we are mechanically conditioned to see, what we are mechanically programmed to see. And if we cannot see the fact properly, we cannot make this journey from fact to truth. Now, we live in a dimension of the five senses. It is through the five senses that we experience life. It is through the mind that we try to understand life. And the mind being conditioned full of sanskars and this immediate labeling of every moment, like and dislike, we don't have a steady mind, right? Now, so we live in a dimension of the senses where we can see effects, we can see facts, we cannot see truth. The senses are incapable of seeing the truth. The truth can only be understood by a clean mind, by a steady mind, by a steady thinking instrument, which can, by the seeing of the fact, lead to the truth. Just as the detective has a look at the dead body and from that he deciphers certain facts from certain facts, what the murderer must be like, right? Similarly, every moment facts are entering our mind as an impression, as impressions, but those impressions get colored. And because of that, we don't see them clearly. We can't move to a higher dimension of life, that is the dimension of causes. What are the causes of the effects which we see through the senses? So we live in a world of effects. We cannot see the world of causes. The world of causes can only be entered with a steady and clear mind. I'll try to, so the world of causes is in a higher dimension of time and space. I'll try to, give an example so we may come to some understanding. Supposing the fact is, I see you have insulted me. That is, you have said some words to me which have come through my ear. I have seen your gestures through my eyes, right? And my conditioned mind interprets this as an insult. It is either through memory, either through sanskar, either through association. So I live in this dimension of the senses, and I say, you have insulted me, you have made me angry, you have hurt me, you are this kind of a person, etc. Now, this is one level of experience. But at a little higher level of experience, I may see that it is my sanskars, my destiny, because I can't see my destiny. I can only see you have insulted me. I may say it is my destiny, it is my line of time. It is that inner structure of mind which Tawarya calls the spectrum or the structure, which Gurdjieff calls the level of being or the being, right? It is that inner structure which has invited you to insult me. Now, in both the planes, the reaction is different. In this plane, right, you insult me, I interpret it as an insult, I react and get angry upon you. You are the cause, I am the effect. But if I'm able to go to the higher plane, then the effect produces the cause. And Tawarya Sahib calls this as the effect producing cause. So at a higher plane, I see you have not insulted me. It is my sanskars which have asked you to insult me. In some way, I have invited this situation in my life. And if I can understand this basic truth that nothing in my life can come to me without my invitation. I cannot change outside people. I cannot change outside circumstances. I cannot change outside situations unless I change within. Nothing outside can change. It is at this little higher level that I understand this truth. So I have moved from the dimension of effects or the dimension of facts to the dimension of truth, to the dimension of causes. Now, if my consciousness can move to a little higher dimension, then I may see the cause of the cause, or the cause of causes, or the causes of cause. I may move to a higher dimension. I may see that it is my soul which wants to increase its power of endurance. It is my soul which wants to increase its power of dharana shakti to move into the state of dharana. I may see that it is my soul which sees this as a weakness and wants to rise above it, use it as a stepping stone to rise above it. And that is why it is my soul which has invited you to insult me. Now, this is the cause of the cause. Now I'm living life at three planes. One plane, you have insulted me and it is your fault. How dare you insult me? At the second plane, I realize that you have not insulted me. My memory patterns, my destiny has invited you to insult me. And a third plane, my soul says, I needed this insult for my growth to a higher plane of consciousness. So suddenly I'm seeing effect, I'm seeing cause, and I'm seeing cause of cause. I hope I'm coming across in this, right? Now, one of the characteristics of living at the lowest level, the plane of the senses, is that we always find fault with somebody else when it is never anybody else's fault. It can never be anybody else's fault. So as long as we live in this dimension of the senses that he is at fault, he is doing this to me, or we blame other people, we can never rise in consciousness. We can never move to a higher dimension of causes. We live in the world of effects. We die in the world of effects. Now, to explain this a little deeper in a different way, which I would not usually like to mix up Shastras, but I'm going to take a slok from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I hope you don't mind. It is from chapter 1, slok 26. And it goes this way. Tatra pashya stitan partha pitrunatha pitamaha acharyan matulan bhratrun putran pautran sakhyus tata. I won't continue the sloka. There is another line, but I won't take that. There, Arjun. So Sanjay says that Krishna told Arjun, see, this is the army of the Kauravas. And there, Arjun, in seeing Pashya, to see, he saw both the armies. He saw his fathers. He saw his grandfathers. He saw his teachers, Acharya. He saw his Matulan, maternal uncles. He saw his brothers, the cousins. He saw his sons, who were the sons of the cousins. He saw his nephews. He saw his grandnephews, his friends, fathers-in-law, well-wishers, etc. Now, let us go a little deep into this sloka. What is the author of the Gita Ji saying over here? What is Vyas Ji conveying to us over here? Of course, this is at the level of the senses. I see my grandfather, I see my fathers and uncles and this and that. So the level of the senses. Now, the first he says that he sees the sons. That is Duryodhan. Duryodhan is the son, right? He is the effect. He is the effect. He is the first impression which comes in, right? He is that reaction in the mind of the impression. It is that reaction in the mind which of the impression that is the son, the effect. The effect is I got angry, right? The effect is I got angry. So Vyasji is saying that any reaction in the chitta that comes from what is seen, he is looking at the Kaurav army, that comes from what is seen, is an effect or putran. So he says, this is an effect, putran, the son. Every effect has a cause in a little higher dimension. So he says, Pitru. Pitru is father. So he says, Arjuna is seeing the sons, he is seeing the father, he is seeing the effect, he is seeing the cause. He's seeing Pitamaha, he's seeing the cause of cause, the grandfather. He's seeing the effect, he's seeing the cause, and he's seeing the cause of cause, or the grandfather. The father being the cause of the son, and the grandfather being the cause of the father. So every effect in life has a cause, Pitru, and every cause in life has a cause of cause, Pitamaha, right? And every effect gives rise to another effect, becomes a cause for another effect, which is the great war, and he sees the grandsons. I hope I'm coming across in this, right? So Vyasji is saying, Arjuna is seeing 4 generations: grandfather, father, son, grandson. Son is the effect, that is the anger in the mind. Grandfather, a father, the destiny, right? That I invited this. And grandfather, the cause of the cause, right? The soul needed it for its growth. Now, we see this on a vertical plane. We see this on a vertical plane: grandfather, father, son, grandson. Now, let us see this on a what you call horizontal plane, because when Gurdjieff talks about many eyes, he's going to say different eyes come to the help of different eyes, right? He's going to say this, right? So here Duryodhana is the effect. The cause of the effect is Dhritarashtra. The cause of the cause is Bhishma, and the effect of the effect is the great Mahabharat war. So we can see this in a straight line. You can see this in a straight. Then he says there are the inner acharyas, acharyan, matulan, right? There are the inner acharyas, dronacharya and kripacharya. Acharya means the one who habits behavior, whether it is in teaching, acharan, who brings it into behavior, the one who puts things into behavior. So I say, this is what I want to do, the effect, and I keep repeating it. Duryodhana keeps repeating it, right? Keeps repeating it. He puts it into action, acharya, right? So these are now the lateral movements, the horizontal movements. So the eyes within us keep repeating what our self-love or ego wants, right? Acharya. Matulan means equal to mother. Equal to mother. That is the mother's brother. The mother's brother supports the reaction, right? So somebody will come to support. If I get angry on you, then another I from inside will come to support my anger. He'll say, it is necessary to get angry on you. This guy who I'm getting angry on, he deserves to be got angry upon. He's not a good character. He gets angry. He insults all people, and it's good that you've given him a dose of his own medicine. So that is the mama, the what do you call, Matulan, who has come inside the mind, and he is now supporting the Duryodhana, Shakuni mama. He's also the one who, what do you call, strategizes with his cunningness and everything, throws the dice, right? Bhatrun, the brothers, Dushasan, always there to say yes to what the ego wants. Always there to say yes to what the inner, what do you call, self-love wants. And then there are the jealous eyes, the brothers. When Duryodhana first sees his cousins coming from the forest, the first reaction is of jealousy. The brother-sibling jealousy, sibling rivalry. And then the pleasing eyes, Karna, the friend, pleasing, always there to please Duryodhana. You are the Yuvraj and you have the right. So there are 2 planes of these eyes within us. One is a vertical plane of cause and effect, and one is of different eyes, different sanskars, different memory patterns within us, who come to support, who come to feed the inner self-love, who come to, make the inner ego more powerful. Please tell me whether I've come across in this. I hope I have come across in this. Yeah, okay, thank you, thank you. So, Patanjali is now talking in Sutra. So, Sutra 32 to 39, he gives remedies for the arthritis. In Sutra 30, he says disease, stagnancy, doubt, lack of care, low energy, boundarylessness, delusion, inability to hold ground, instability. These are the disturbances in the chit. This is the chitta vikshepa, right? What happens in the chit. But in the Gita, they have given the play of eyes, what is exactly happening in the chit, and that has been given by in the Gita ji by Vyasji, right? And then he says these lead to accompaniments that are outside, that is what do you call pain, depression, agitation in the body and breath, what do you call agitation in inhalation and exhalation. All these accompany these disturbances. Now, we have to see that all these, behind all these disturbances is our self-love, our ego. And we have to observe the chit in such a way that every moment we don't allow what is happening in the chitta to feed the ego. Otherwise, the ego goes more powerful and we are further and further away from the fact and truth. Now, let us take this word, yatha abhimata, that which has been allowed, that which has been given assent to. So the normal translation is what I like or what is in my heart or what is my inclination. Yatha abhinam. Now, what I'm trying to say is over here, is that if I am angry, I cannot be angry unless I have assented to the anger. Unless something within me, within my chitta has said yes to the anger. Right? So I'm taking it in a little different way over here. Right? Supposing I want to take revenge upon you, I want to show you and put you in your place or something, then I'm in a state of revenge. My chitta is living the, what you call, feeling of revenge. In my heart is the feeling of revenge, right? Then it can only be there if I have, it may be mechanical, that does not matter, but I must have assented to it. I must have given permission to it. So in this moment, what is in my chit, whether it is enmity, whether it is anger, whether it is jealousy, whether it is what you call defending myself, right? Whatever is going on in my chit cannot happen without my permission. Even if that permission is mechanical, I have no control over it. And I have taken yatha abhimata to mean that, right? That what is going on in my chitta. Now this word abhi, right? Towards, so it takes my dhyanat, my meditation towards what is happening in the chitta, and I contemplate upon it, I look at it, I observe it, I pause it, and I be free of it. That is how I've taken this sutra in a little different way, right? So the normal translation which everyone has done is that meditate on anything you like. But then I was wondering where likes and dislikes would go in this. So if there is anything happening in my chitta at this moment, right, it cannot happen without my liking it, without my saying yes to it. And if I have said yes to it, I like it. I enjoy taking revenge upon you, right? It is like eating a sweet meat for me. So I like it. That is why it is there in my chitta. And if it is there in my chitta, now abhi, I take the word abhi towards I take my meditation, dhyanat va. That is dhyanat to that. Va means or, that is 32 to 39, or by meditating upon anything you like. So or is just at the beginning of the sutra, right? So we can reach that state of ek tattva abhyas by meditating on anything you like. But like I said, I've taken it in this way, right? So whatever reaction is in my mind, at this moment can only be there if I've allowed it, yes to it. Matta. Now, we'll go into the words a little later. That is, if I've given permission to it. Supposing I'm feeling enmity towards you, then I have allowed the emotion of hate to come in my mind. I have allowed that emotion of hate to fill my being. Now I direct my meditation upon that. By meditating on this object of what I have allowed in the mind, the aspirant achieves stability of mind. I become free of it and I achieve stability of mind. There is a process of self-observation, right? Now, this can take different techniques at different moments. And I'll try to give a few examples. So at different moments, I can develop different techniques to do this. And those techniques may just awaken out of intuition in that very moment of observation of what I have allowed in my mind, right? Observation of what has come in my mind. So supposing we take one technique. That is, I don't ascribe everything to I. I is me. So I'm trying to free myself from the I, right? So in this moment, I'm interacting with life. We can take any situation. I've just taken one situation. Supposing you come to my home. You come to my home and you have dinner or lunch or something, and you say the food is wonderful. And suddenly that feeds my self-love. Your praise feeds my self-love. And then I go back to that nursery rhyme, or what a good boy am I, right? And it feeds my self-love. I get a thought of how good a cook am I. Now, this is something which has been thought. So the word man to think, mata to thought, yata abhimata, mata that which is thought, which has been thought, right? So this is something which has been thought, that what a good cook am I, right? What a good cook am I. Now, if I get identified with this, if I go to sleep with this, if I form a vritti out of this, right? Then I may form a chain of thought where it supports my self-love, it supports my ego. It may want to get more praise out of you. So I may tell you that I might tell you of how difficult it was to cook this meal and how much of effort I put into cooking this meal. Everything ascribing to I. Everything I'm ascribing to I. How many hours I took to cook it. What are the special ingredients I ordered from what places, and how difficult they were to get to put them in. How I'm so pressurized by time, and with all my problems in life, I was able to cook this, what do you call, meal for you. So suddenly that one thought, the mata, the thought, something which I've allowed in the mind, right? My self-love, my praise that I cook this, that gives rise to a train of thought where I ascribe everything to I want more, what do you call, feedback from you towards my I, right? Now, at this moment, if I abhi, that is towards, I direct my dhyan, that is towards this. Instead of getting identified it, I meditate upon it. If I pause over there, and instead of allowing a train of thought, what a good cook am I and how much trouble I have gone through, instead of allowing that train of thought, I pause that chain of thought, and what I have already assented to, what has come into my mind with my assent, that what a good cook am I look at it and I observe it, I pay meditation upon it. And I realize that how it is feeding my ego. I realize that my aim is to be free of the ego. How, if the ego is not fed Again, tomorrow it is going to create more chitta vikshep, more disruptions in the ego, and how to starve the ego and what do you call dissolve the ego in that moment. And in that moment, I'm free of chitta vikshep. There is steadiness of the thinking instrument. There is ek tattva abhyas, which came in Sutra 32. So, easy. Turbo दबाओ ना, green switch दबाओ. We can take another example. Supposing somebody is criticizing me, hurting me deeply. You know, Duryodhana is hurt by what do you call Draupadi is laughing in the Mahabharata. And the immediate cause of the war was that Draupadi is laughing. The immediate cause of the game of dice and what do you call the Pandavas going into the forest, right? So now I'm hurt with this laughing, this criticism of me. And Mr. Shakuni comes in and he starts cunningly strategizing how I can take revenge upon you, right? Because you have insulted me. I want to give it back to you. I want to give it back to you. Now, this giving back, this state of revenge, please realize that when I'm in a state of revenge, I'm at the lowest level of my being. I can't go lower than this. How low can I go? When I'm in a state where I want to take revenge upon you, I'm nearly at the lowest ladder of my being. I cannot go lower than this, right? So I'm in this negative, I'm living this negative state of revenge. The thought process is going there. I have allowed this state. I have given preference to this state. Matta. And then I turn my meditation towards it. Who is feeling hurt? Is the soul feeling hurt or is the ego feeling hurt? And suddenly I realize that the ego cannot, only the ego is hurt. The soul can never be hurt because the soul does not have an I. It has a real I, a different I, right? It has a universal I. And only the individual I can be hurt because you have insulted me, right? And suddenly in that moment, I'm free of the I. There is ek tattva abhyas, right? But this happens dhyanat, due to meditation. So the word dhyanat, due to meditation, due to dhyana, this has happened. Due to dhyana, I have suddenly brought steadiness to my thinking instrument. I have freed myself from the state of chitta vikshep. I don't know. I hope I've come across the sort of different translation of this sutra which I have taken. I hope I've been able to explain it a little. Now let us go into the sutra, the words. Yatha apimata dhyanat va. Here the va at the end is actually at the beginning. That sutra number 32, Ek Tattva Abhyas, or sutra number 33 do this, or sutra number 34 do this, or sutra number 39 do this, the one which we are doing, sutra number Yatha Abhimat Dhyanat, or this, right? So it is because it is in this series from 32 to 39, the va has come first, or this. Yatha, je pramane, in this way. Je pramane, in this way. Dhyan at, due to, because of meditation, according to one's desire, as desired. This comes from the root dhyay, to think, to contemplate, to what is in the mind, what I have allowed in the mind to contemplate, dhyay, to meditate upon, to ponder upon, to reflect upon. The root of meditation, dhyay. Now, in the word dhyay becomes dhya, and an is added, so dhyana, and because it becomes, from that it becomes dhyanat. Dhyanat means from dhyana, from there, due to meditation, due to this, I am able to do ek tattva abhyas, I am able to not allow the chitta to go into chitta vikshepa. Now, the full meaning of the word abhimata, yatha abhimata, is as desired, as wished, as agreed, as assented to, as liked, right? Now, so that which is in my mind, I have taken it in this way, that which is in my mind at this moment cannot be there without my assent. It has been assented to. So if I'm in this state of revenge, I have assented to that state of revenge. And it is in some people, it is in their heart of their life to take revenge upon somebody. They spend their whole lives taking revenge upon somebody, right? We have the famous story of Buddha's cousin who wanted to take revenge upon him, and he spent his whole life taking revenge upon Buddha. Now we'll take the two words apart, abhi and mata. The whole meaning is abhimata is that which is desired, that which is assented to. Now we take mata is different and abhi is different. So mata is prefixed by abhi. So it becomes a past participle. That mata, man to think, mata, that which is thought, already thought. So it is more like an adjective. It is not a noun like thought, but that which has been thought, right? So in Sanskrit, we have the word hana, to kill, and hana becomes hata, killed. Similarly, man to think, mata, thought, right? So the idea which is already thought, which is there in the mind, assented to, allowed. Now the prefix abhi is directing our attention towards, directing our meditation towards that which is already in the mind. Abhimata, directing that to our thoughts. So mata, that which is allowed, assented to, and abhi, to give direction to our dhyana, and through that dhyana to be free of it. By giving that direction to that dhyana, our meditation to that which is in the mind. So in this way, we are able to observe the workings of the mind like we saw in the sloka. And there are so many factors to the observing the workings of the mind, the what do you call the vertical factors of grandfather, father, son, and the son of son, grandson, and the horizontal factors of the teachers and the what do you call. Now, here we have to understand that some characters are on a vertical level and also on a horizontal level. So we have Bhishma, who is a vertical level, is the cause of all causes. Everything in the end is the cause is Bhishma, because if he had not taken the pratigya, nothing would have happened, right? So he's the cause of cause, right? But at a horizontal level, he's a well-wisher, Surat. I've not taken that part of the slope. At a horizontal level, he is also a well-wisher, where he tries to tell Duryodhana not to go for the war. So we have, at a horizontal level, he is a work eye, but at the vertical level, he is the cause of the cause. So if we take this, so one way to take this to meditate upon anything you desire, anything you like, right? So this will we take the meaning of yatha abhimata in the manner that but I will take it in the manner in which the situation desires rather than what we desire, and to come up with something which does not allow our ego to fulfill, to bring consciousness to the situation, to bring contemplation, dhyana to the situation, to bring reflection to the situation. Right? Now, this explains the sutra. We still have some time. So I just want to talk a little bit about when we are observing the play of the mind, when we are suffering, in any state of psychological suffering or physical suffering, which leads to psychological suffering, right? Observing the play of the mind. Basically, we can divide suffering into just two parts, and we have talked about this many times: involuntary suffering and voluntary suffering. If I'm complaining about the suffering, it is involuntary suffering. If I'm finding fault with somebody else, it is involuntary suffering. If I'm saying that if this had not happened, then this would not have happened, if only, it is involuntary suffering. But if I accept the suffering, I may be shouting and screaming because of the pain, but if I accept the suffering, there is no complaint about it, then I move from involuntary suffering to voluntary suffering. And this is the one of the greatest keys in life. The greatest keys in life. Because we don't have to look for suffering in life. There is enough of suffering in normal life. Right? Just if we see these three things, don't put the blame, don't complain, and don't say if this had happened, this would not have happened. If only, if we can be free of these three things, then we can transform involuntary suffering into voluntary suffering. Voluntary suffering. So our first step in life is to move from involuntary suffering to voluntary suffering. Relax, accept, and watch the play. Now then we can divide suffering into many different kinds of suffering. And the first suffering is what we call as useless suffering. Useless suffering. All suffering connected with I, all suffering that is personal is useless suffering. Because we are on the spiritual path to be free from the I. And if I say I am suffering because of this, and I am suffering because he did this to me, and I am suffering because of that, all suffering connected with I for a person who is on the spiritual path is useless suffering. Right? So better transform that into immediately from involuntary into voluntary suffering. Now, here there is a principle involved. The principle involved that whenever we suffer, we strengthen what we have assented to. Mata, abhimata, what we have desired, what we have assented to. Now try to understand this. Try to understand this. You have insulted me. I am so badly hurt. I've got to take revenge upon you. So I have assented to this thought of revenge in my mind, and this thought of revenge is in my mind nearly 24 hours. I've assented to it. And because I'm suffering your insult, I'm going through this psychological pain of your insult, this suffering of your insult. Suffering strengthens what is in the mind. So in that suffering, I am strengthening the, what do you call, the sanskar of insult. Sorry, the sanskar of revenge. Am I coming across in this? Right? Or I'm complaining, then in that suffering, I am strengthening the sanskar of complaining. Right? But even though there is pain, I try to separate. There is a pause, there is a contemplation. Then I'm through that pain, I'm strengthening the sanskar of contemplation, of consciousness. Right? That is why we say Christ died on the cross. Through the suffering on the cross, he, what do you call, permanently fixed his, what do you call, elevation of consciousness, because he remained conscious all that time through all that suffering. Right? So now, this does not mean that I show a cheerful image outside and I suffer inside. No, it does not mean that. And I complain inside. This does not mean that. See, life is not bound to move according to our expectations. We have so many expectations from life. we want to see our children married, and then we want to see their children married, and their children have grandsons, etc., etc., all that. So many expectations we have from life. And every expectation is a seed for future suffering. Every expectation is a seed for future suffering. Now, do we value our freedom from suffering? Do we value a state of peace of the chitta, or do we value chitta vikshepa? So as long as we are personally suffering, we cannot grow spiritually. And on the spiritual path, we have to sacrifice our personal suffering. Is that suffering with I, or is it a universal suffering? Right? And change it from involuntary to voluntary, observe it, and rise above it. From suffering from I, we must move from suffering for our sadhana. If I've missed my practices this morning, I must suffer for it. But as long as I suffer because my son is not doing well in his exams, I cannot suffer for not doing my practices in the morning. I hope I'm coming across in this, right? So from imaginary suffering, which is connected with I move to a state of suffering where how can I be free of this I? How can I be free of personal suffering? I suffer because I'm still suffering. And this is the beginning of real suffering. But all of us cling to our suffering in life. And we keep on allowing these states inside of us, and we don't observe these states. We don't try to be free of these states. And try to rise above it, right? And try to look at it that as long as it is personal, it cannot be real. Keep that in mind. As long as it is personal, it cannot be real, right? And try to move above it. So that will lead to a steadiness of the thinking instrument. It will lead to a steadiness of chitta. Can we, at the moment of death, be free of all grievances against everyone? Can we die without any personal suffering, without any personal grievance with anyone, without any complaint about life? Then the slate is clean. Then we have risen to, then in death we rise to a higher level, from the level of effects to the level of causes. And when we die in the level of causes, we give birth in the level of causes. But as long as we are complaining on this level, as long as we are hanging on to our suffering in this level, we cannot rise to that higher level. Right? So this was a simple sutra, but I just took it in a different way. Yatha abhimat dhyanatva, right? Va, or, and this is the last in the series of Ek Tattva Abhyas, or by meditating upon something you desire. I have taken that desire, something which we have assented to, something which is in the mind, and transferring our meditation upon it and being free of it. Right? I'll stop here. Any questions? I'll take the questions.
We have a question from General Kundra. General Kundra, are you still here? Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I think I've put it on the chat there. Basically, if I get it right, will it be right to say that whatever as a, what has been the cause, the effect, what you do is basically you're transmitting certain frequencies to the chitta. And it is those frequencies is what becomes the effect to cause, and it comes back to you. Will that be right to understand in that manner?
From where am I transmitting?
Transmitting basically, yeah, like example what you gave, Draupadi, she laughed, and there was an effect that there was, there was a feeling of humility, or not humility. He actually had this thing to take revenge out of that. The why she is saying anger came in, and that anger went back as an effect to cause in the higher platform. And when that went as a cause, would it be right to say that this frequency, what he admitted, is what attracted the frequency from the chitte, which is there, and it became part and compounded the whole thing for him.
Yeah, so where he attracted from a lower level of being.
Yeah, yeah,
So the frequency which was sent out, the radio signal was of a lower frequency. So it
correct.
can only invite something which relates to the frequency, the spectrum of that frequency. Of course, that
Yeah,
frequency will also have a spectrum of higher and lower, right?
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
will relate to that in that
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was
Because
trying to
like
get a confirmation
you
on.
can take you can take chitti as a kind of elastic membrane, and we throw something thought onto it, and the thought comes back to us from where we have thrown it. If we are at a higher level of being, then that comes back to us. If we are in a state of thankfulness, then thankfulness comes.
Yeah.
But you get it. But if I'm in a state of revenge, then
Yeah.
some spectrum of revenge is going to come to meet me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It cannot bring
Exactly. Thank you.
happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I think you just
Even though by taking revenge, I may feel happy for some time, right? But it really cannot bring real happiness.
How do we change this lower frequency?
Hmm?
How do we change the lower frequency?
By not complaining. Any other question, anyone else?
Any questions from people on the Zoom? They can just raise their hands or unmute yourself and ask the question.
What do you call? What do you call? YouTube?
No, there's no questions on YouTube.
Okay. Right. So we want to stop?
No.
There is actually one question that iPhone XR has. Do you want to ask the question? The person who's just left it on chat.
I can't see it.
Okay, let me ask the question. What does Tawariyaji mean by translation of this sutra, dearest of the heart?
Yeah, so I mean, that's very difficult to understand what Mr. Tavaria is talking about, but I can say this much: if I'm in a state of revenge, and this moment, the dearest thing to my heart is to take revenge, right? So unless the negative part of the emotional center is totally cut off, we cannot understand what Tavaria ji is saying. That is, dearest to our heart. In everyone, dearest to the heart is to rise in consciousness and to be free from the dream of life, to wake up from the dream of life. So there again, you just direct your meditation towards that. Right?
Manoj, do you have a question?
You are discussing about useless suffering. Are there any other types of suffering?
Other types of right. So basically, we divided it into two. All suffering can be involuntary or voluntary. Then there's useful suffering. All suffering which dissolves the ego becomes useful suffering. Right? All suffering which increases the sanskars, increases the patterns in the ego is useless suffering.
Okay.
Right? Then there is intentional suffering. That is, I want to do the exercises in the morning. So I want to get up early so I don't go for a movie at night. This is intentional suffering. I've taken an aim, and for that aim, I'm sacrificing. That is intentional suffering.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I try to remain in the present moment. So there may be a sweet daydreaming which is trying to pull me out of the present moment, or there may be a train of thought which is trying to pull me out of and I again come back and try to hold my presence in the present moment. That is conscious suffering. The suffering which helps me to stay in the present moment. there is conscious suffering, right? So we can have
Thank you.
basically suffering of two types, intentional suffering or voluntary suffering and involuntary suffering. That contains all suffering in that. Then there is intentional suffering for a certain aim, right? If I want to earn a lot of money, that could also be intentional suffering. Then I will direct all my energies towards that. I may sacrifice family life. I may sacrifice so many things. There is also a form of intentional suffering, right? And then there is what you call conscious suffering, the suffering to remain in the present moment, right? Which I discard everything which tries to take me out of the present moment, right? Okay. What's your name? Manoj.
Manoj Garg.
Manoj Garg. Okay. Okay. Shall we stop here? Hemamin?
Ji, sir. Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
When it comes to personal suffering, you make yourself understand what is it, and you try to, subside it with talking, and then
Yeah.
it subside for a moment, and again it comes back. Again you say, okay, again it comes back. So it keeps on coming back. I mean, I'm talking about a day. Suppose something happens, and the incident or the thought behind the chain of thoughts, you subside it. Again after 1 hour, again they will erupt. Again you go to that chain of thoughts, why this is happening in my life, why this. Again with your talking or some understanding, you make it calmer. It's okay, and then again it flares up. I mean, it's during the day, not a long process. So what should we do in these circumstances?
First of all, is that don't try to, what do you call, suppress it,
Okay.
right? The first thing you try to do, bring it to the level of sensitivity.
Hmm.
The five senses are always in the present moment. To try to sense it right down to your senses,
Hmm.
right? And as you're sensing it, you're feeling the pain, you're moving through the pain, right? Ask yourself the question, who is sensing?
Okay.
Right? The answer will come. The answer will not come in a answer, but the answer will come as a revelation, an awakening.
Hmm.
Something will separate, and someone will be looking at the suffering. Right? But first, bring it to the present moment. Don't put it on the shelf for future, this thing. So, in the present moment, feel the pain in your senses, right down to your senses, like as if it is physical pain. You can also relate it to the body in whichever way, heartburn or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Muscular tension, and you can tense and relax the muscles to help you at that moment. But bring it right down to the physical level. And as you're sensing the pain, as you're sensing the suffering, right, ask yourself the question, who is sensing this suffering? What is this energy of sensitivity? And is there a sensitivity of who is sensing the suffering? And something will work over there.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Acceptance is the door, not
Oh,
suppress.
yes, acceptance.
Accept.
Acceptance is the door.
Right. Shall
Thank
you?
you, sir.
You can say the closing slok if you like.
Okay, sir. Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
See, just now you said the slok, and you
Please,
feel
sir.
the vibrations of Om and the slok moving through your body, moving through your senses in the present moment.
Hmm.
Similarly, feel the vibrations of the suffering moving through the body, moving through the senses in the present moment.
Okay.
Put your observation on the muscles, and that'll do the trick.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night. Good night.